Portraits and photographs, words and music. This time the playlist digs into our cultural identity using all three. The playlist is next.
Funding for the playlist is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
In the right hands, an image can capture the human spirit. Portraits reflect who we are and how we view our culture and gender and identity. The Duluth Art Institute is focused on the portrait this summer and offering us a chance to explore what all that means right here. Samantha Gibroff is in the studio tonight to fill us in. You have a huge summer planned. I love this stuff.
Thank you. We do. We have actually 6 months of a focus on the portrait at the Duluth Art Institute. We started it in March, actually, with a Sarah Brockie show.
Yeah, well, which is still up for one more day.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And we do get to see some of her work just after this conversation, so that's kind of cool. But that has to come down to make way for?
In Focus, the National Geographic's Greatest Portraits, and this comes from the Smithsonian Institution.
And how many pieces are, I mean, these are not just your average photographs, right? These are the big ones, the iconic ones.
Yes, yes. And they span a lot of time and they span a lot of cultures. As National Geographic, of course, went to different cultures and countries all over. And as you see, they're beautiful to start with, and they're quite evocative. It's this one with the goldfinches that we just saw in the cage on a woman's head with a headdress and draped. It is beautiful. And of course, this is really fun with the lobsterettes in Rockland, Maine. That's from the 1950s.
Yeah, they make you ask more questions. And I guess that was my big question about that's part of the discovery, right? What makes a good portrait?
Well, first of all, an artist, a photographer, makes a great portrait. And of course, that doesn't always mean setting up the portrait, although in the early years of portraiture, there was such a long exposure time that was necessary to take a good photograph that they were set up. But as time went on, a great portrait was taken in an impromptu moment as well. So a great portrait is something that's captured in a moment, or it's something that is thought out. It can be both things.
So this is the National Geographic is part of kind of a longer portraits, am I saying that right? Portraits. It's a longer thing that'll go through the summer with a few other features.
Exactly. We have, I said we had 6 months of a focus on the portrait. It started with Sarah Brockie's exhibit that closes tomorrow called Ripple Effect, and it's Sarah Brockie, who's been a long-time instructor at the Art Institute, about 5 years, and her students who have advanced. So we went from that painted portrait into the photo portrait, which opens with the Smithsonian's National Geographic show next Thursday, May 20th. And then that night also we're going to open up the field to community participation portraiture. We're having portraits. Duluth Superior shows its face begin, and we're inviting people from all over the Twin Ports and the whole region to take pictures of each other, and we're going to post them. So it's going to be a community happening.
I love that you're giving us a chance to participate and kind of discover kind of each other and what we're seeing.
Well, exactly. Everybody loves to look at portraits of people. People like to look at portraits of themselves and their families and friends. So this gives us a chance to do that, and also to look at portraits of the other, of people from other cultures, other types of people.
I want to show some of those pictures from Wing Young Huey, who grew up in Duluth, and it will be also here and as kind of an extension of a project he's got going on in the Twin Cities, right?
Exactly. Wing Young Huey grew up in Duluth. He's a Chinese American, and he has done a number of public art projects all over the world. He's known international, but he grew up here, and he has just started a project in St. Paul called University Avenue Project that spans over 6 miles on University Avenue, and he's doing projections every evening for 2 hours. He's employing music with it. And up here, we found out about his project, and we asked him if we could be a satellite.
Yeah.
And he said yes, of course, and he's going to come up and he's going to do some workshops. We're going to invite community members to come and to learn this process that Wing employs to get people to discover something about each other. It's not just friends that'll be talking to each other, it's people you don't know, and he has a series of 8 questions that he has people ask each other, and then he has them take each other's photo.
I think it's fantastic that the Duluth Art Institute is giving us that opportunity, and thank you for coming and telling us a little bit about it. And you can go to the Duluth Art Institute next Thursday night and
Yes.
try your hand at a portrait.
We're having an opening on Thursday from 5 to 7 in the Great Hall of the Depot, and we're inviting people to bring their own cameras. We're going to have paparazzi. We're going to have 4 stations set up where people can try costumes on and have their portrait taken that way, have interesting backdrops. So have food, have wine, have fun, come and look at the Smithsonian exhibit, and take part in this great happening. We have sponsors for this exhibit as well. For all of these exhibits, we have the Cartier Agency is sponsoring the Smithsonian exhibit. We have CPF Photo and Jeff Fry Photography are sponsoring the Portraits exhibit, and the Depot Foundation has given us a grant to do this.
I think it's fantastic. So thank you, and have a great summer. I know I'll be seeing you at some of those events, maybe not next Thursday. Thank you. Now, for another perspective on portraits, our artist profile this week features Sarah Brockie. She instills so much life into her subjects, drawing out their personality and adding in some of her own.
Painting does something for me that nothing else has done. It gives me space to really be clear about who I am and where I'm at that time. It turns in, for me, it becomes a visual diary to some extent. My name is Sarah Brockie. I am a visual artist, primarily painting. As you will see around my studio, I have pretty much an equal proportion of things that are abstract and things that are figure-based, not because I'm dabbling in either or, but I feel like they're very interrelated in the way that I approach painting. And you'll see that I'm using a pretty large size brush for something that's so detailed. Part of the reason I do that is it's helping me forcing me to stay relatively loose, and so the very, very details will be at the very end of the painting. I started this painting 2 days ago, but really, formally speaking, I'm just kind of laid in all of the general ideas and areas, and the really hard part of the painting actually is this last little bit where I'm trying to tweak and turn it into who she is. It's really an emerging process. I'm really building with the paint at the same time. And sometimes it can be something really, really small, but all of a sudden, they're there. I've probably been painting the figure now for about 11 years, and I really do honestly believe that I'll probably be a beginner painter until I'm about 83, and then I'll finally have achieved some sort of semblance of that I'm there, I guess. Mostly because any sort of art making is a journey. I have lots of influences in the way that I work, and I'm always really looking to ways that I can change and adapt and move myself with my own work. I'm really not sure what my trajectory is, but I really like not knowing. I consider my painting and the way that I work very much an event. If I don't get to where I was trying to go in that painting, I'll do it over again and over again and over again in a different way and on a different painting, and really try to learn from the positive things. Portrait painting and figure painting is very, very obviously an admired tradition. It's been around forever and ever and ever. And so my hope is that I'm still able to make something that speaks to today, that has voice beyond just, look, I can make something look like a person.
Our next guests celebrate portraits too, those painted with words. Please welcome Poet Laureate Sheila Packa, as well as Adele Cruz. I love how you spell your last name too, Adele. Welcome to both of you. And Sheila, I have to ask, Poet Laureate sounds pretty lofty. That's very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Yeah, and you have some pretty lofty goals that you want to work with community and kind of get us thinking about poetry.
The Poet Laureate is sponsored by Lake Superior Writers and the Friends of the Public Library and bookstores and people in the writing community. And my role is to promote poetry and to expand the audience for poetry. So in light of that, I've come up with some ideas. One is a community-wide writing project. I want to teach people how to write blessings, which are very useful for transitions of any kind. Going to a baby shower, a wedding, a funeral, moving, any of those really benefit from having a blessing.
And did you attach them also to places, to parks, to?
Yes, I also would like to bring poetry into the parks and trails. And so there'll be a little excerpt or a poem from a Duluth poet at various places, like at Hawks Ridge, for instance.
I think that's a great way to inspire people to think about it a little differently. And certainly, Adele, through the book awards that are part of the who sponsors it?
The Northeast Minnesota Book Awards are sponsored by the UMD Library, but that's in cooperation with the Friends of the Duluth Public Library and the Lake Superior Writers. And we have been doing this now for 22 years. We've expanded from one award annually to now having 6 categories with both a winner and an honorable mention. So we're very proud of being able to showcase the wonderful talent that we have in this community, both the writers, people who write about this area, and the wonderful publishers that we have in Duluth.
We're pretty fortunate, and that was one of my questions actually for both of you. How hard is it? I know writing, when it's done well, like everything, it looks easy, but it's hard work. So how hard is it to find a foothold in a place to be able to share your work as a writer?
It takes a lot of time. I encourage people to form writing groups. People also form collectives that publish their own work. My work was published by a Duluth publisher, Calyx Press, and I was very glad about that. I've also self-published some of my chapbooks. And there's a lot of ways to get your work out there, and I hope to do a workshop about alternative internet, online, electronic methods to bring your work out.
And Sheila has a great blog spot too, that if you want to check out kind of what she's thinking as our Duluth Poet Laureate. It's a really fun window on what's going on. Another fun window is the book awards this weekend.
That's right. Sunday, starting at 1:30 p.m. at the UMD Kirby Ballroom, we'll have a book fair where people can come to meet the authors, purchase some of the materials that have been nominated, and then at 3:30 we have our speaker, B.O. Kangas, our local cookbook author and very noted around the country, and the awards will be following her speech.
And I know that there's a poetry category.
Yes.
And you probably have been in it in years past. And can I pick up a Sheila Packa book, a book of poetry at the
Northern Lights bookstore? You can.
Okay, there
but
you go.
This year I didn't have a book.
Yeah, but it's nice to be able to have that local bookstore that has that connection to the community. And thank you for the work that you do. And I'm looking forward to hearing more about poetry and great books in the weeks ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So great voices weave the written word with music, and that's what the DSSO Chorus does with the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra. The DSSO's chorus is hard at work preparing for this weekend's concert. Greg Grell and Judy Morrissey prepared a little preview.
2, 3, 4, and go. We believe in blues notes, but if you are there.
Practices are fun. It's enjoyable. There's some camaraderie involved there. But once it's on stage, it's a performance, and you become so alive, so engrossed by what you're doing. That keeps you coming back. It's the performance.
We started 6 weeks before the concert on Monday nights and 2.5 hours per rehearsal, and with 8 rehearsals, that adds up to 20 hours.
Sometimes I'm surprised after an hour and a half of really hard work that everybody still is really excited, you know, and that really energizes me. I think it would be hard to be a viable symphony without having a chorus to do some of these great works.
For me, it's the model of life. You know, when you come to a choir, you have a part to contribute. But then together you create something that's bigger and more than you could ever by yourself do. And I think that's a wonderful role model for communities.
It's that element of live performance, especially in these grand works. That's what drew me to music in the first place. That's what made me devote my life to music, was a big orchestral symphony with the big chorus. There's nothing that can compare to it.
The chorus is certainly inspired by music. The concert Saturday at the Deck marks the 50th anniversary of the DSSO chorus. You can experience the performance starting at 8 o'clock Saturday at the Deck, and it'll be broadcast live right here on WDSE. Now, to watch the playlist online and to submit your ideas for the show, you can check us out on the web at theplaylistonline.org. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Now, please welcome tonight's musical guests, Bill and Kate Isles.
I like old fences where they've fallen into disrepair. A few slats missing and the wood is weathered bare.
Old fences bring to me a sense of time, of history, stretched between the posts of faded memories.
But nothing lasts forever. It'll all fall down like wood and stone and metal, returning to the ground. No, nothing lasts forever, except the finest kind, like the joy I feel when you're on my mind. I like those old stone walls built along a woodland road, cracks and moss growing up and down each side.
I like those stone walls too, an iron gate to let us through, down a path into a world that's out of view.
But nothing lasts forever. It'll all fall down like wood and stone and metal, returning to the ground. No, nothing lasts forever, except the finest kind, like the joy I feel when you're on my mind. Walls and fences all about, they keep it in, they keep it out. They let you know how life has been. Sometimes they're best for straddling,
built by kids and cattle kings with twisted wire and secret things. Safety lies behind the line. What's yours is yours and mine is mine.
But nothing lasts forever. It'll all fall down like wood and stone and metal, returning to the ground. No, nothing lasts forever, except the finest kind, like the joy I feel when you're on my mind. There's a joy I feel when you're on my mind. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Karen.
Thanks for being here, both of you. It's just a pleasure.
Very happy to be here.
Well, and tell me a little bit about that song. It's called Old Fences, right?
Yeah, we live in Lakeside, right underneath Hawk Ridge, and we walk down Oneida Street, which is the street we live on, and down about 59th Avenue East, there's an old picket fence in the woods. And this picket fence has been there for so long, you can't tell why it was built. There's like an old growth forest in it. And some of the things are growing up through it, and it's tipping this way and that. And we walk our dog past there, and I said to Kate one time, I just love those old fences. And we just started thinking about what fences and walls represent in our lives and how over time they kind of fall apart. Things grow up through them, and just looked at the metaphor of an old fence. And we were playing up at Lake Itasca and saw an old stone wall, and that kind of reinforced it.
Tell me a little bit about your songwriting process. I mean, do you kind of bounce ideas off of each other? Who does the songwriting?
We mostly write separately, but we've written a few songs together. That was one of mine.
Although
but
we did bounce off a few.
We did, definitely, yeah. We filter a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Kate, what inspires you? I mean, do you hear his voice when you're composing, or do you hear this? I want a story.
Yeah, I hear, gosh, a lot of things. Most recently, a song I wrote from a book I read called Someone Knows My Name, and that's the most recent thing. Of course, personal things, everyone can do that when they're writing, but anything, anyone, anywhere, so.
Well, welcome back from the road, because I understand you were traveling quite a bit.
We were, yeah. We had a 4-month road trip.
Yeah, I could find you on Facebook, so I knew where you were going. So what's it like to be back, and what's coming up for you guys?
Well, we love Duluth, and I was born and raised here. I was born just not far from here, and raised here, and Kate's been here for 20 years. And it was a long 17,000-mile road trip, but we loved every minute of it. We just had a great time. And we're going to do it again next year. What's coming up for us? We have a lot of regional shows, and we have a wonderful fiddler named April Virch who plays with us, plays on all of our albums, and tours with us a couple times a year. And she was featured in the Olympic opening ceremonies this year, and she's from Canada. She's a national champion. So she's coming in July for our CD release concert, which we've decided to have just today, well, recently, and nailed it down today at the Clyde Ironworks new facility out in Lincoln Park.
So that new CD is out, and people can get it.
It's out now, yeah.
If they want to hear you really soon, Red Mug tomorrow night,
right? Tomorrow night at the Red Mug Coffee House, just over the bridge in Superior.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm leaving time for your next song because I love it.
Oh, well, thank
Hobos
you.
in the Roundhouse.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Karen.
Thanks for being here.
From 7 to 7 every night of the week, fixing trains in the roundhouse, I work on my feet. And I told my children, I hope the bed bugs don't bite. And I got hobos sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. From Akron and Hinckley and Prairie du Chien, they are soldiers and lawyers, and I believe what they're saying. And I'll rouse them at 4 and they'll head down the line. My hobo's sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. Good night, my hobos, rest your vagabond heads on your old knapsack pillows, in your gunny sack beds. For a few stolen hours, you'll be all right. My hobo's sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. Well, they hired a new man to work as a guard. Every morning at sunrise, he checks out the yard. But for now, I won't trust him. though he seems pretty nice. 'Cause I got hobos sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. By the way, this is a true story about my grandfather up in Virginia. Well, I asked my Savior, what should I do? If I'm caught helping hobos, my job could be through. And I heard the answer so clear and so bright. Are my hobos sleeping in your roundhouse tonight? Good night, my hobos, rest your vagabond heads on your old knapsack pillows, in your gunny sack beds. For a few stolen hours, you'll be all right. My hobo's sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. For a few stolen hours, you'll be all right. My hobo's sleeping in the roundhouse tonight. Good night, boys.
Funding for the playlist is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and by viewers like you.